Welcome to our lovely future humans, our 5D collective. To those who have a steady self image, we had a full moon. I had a hunch. So today's episode is going to be a bit different. It's kind of a late HP show, kind of a daytime, but let's start with this. When you know how to stay grounded, connected, and present, you don't need a resilience program because the world is not asking more of you than it has ever asked before. It is actively asking you the same during crises, during uncertainty, unknowns, unexpected, unwanteds, during change. That's how easy it is for a steady self, I'm 46, to know how to stay in the prefrontal and then to let you all in on fun fact that's restorative embodiment, self-aware, accountable, regulating people. So I integrate science, spirituality, because that's spiritual sovereignty, self-sovereignty, nervous system sovereignty. And I am still irritated by those who are called fakos. So we'll talk about that, the 3D, 4D collective, in a minute. So when you don't need a resilience program, what do you need? Well, you don't need anything. However, you will use journal prompts, mindset practices, and the inner growth mindset. It's for those who like to be themselves. Be yourself under pressure. So one-to-one mentorship, that's always an opportunity, goals, objectives, but in the meantime, check out PayHip for journal prompts, mindset practices that you do thanks to your capacity to own, observe, witness, narrate that which is effective realism. In fact, you know all about subjective reality. So when we get to be flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, and stable, yes, and we get to be connected, open, aware, and loving, some people think that means people will take advantage of you. And that's what some people will be convinced of. While I will know why the world's chaos and rigidity comes from those who still irritate me. It's unsteady self and no monsters to be blamed. So when someone wants to tell me about power corrupting, leadership corrupting, manipulation corrupting, lies corrupting, demonic forces and benevolent forces at play. I'm a mystic, remember, and the full moon came around just recently. Once you're experiencing self-sovereignty, aka spiritual sovereignty, you're not affected by the external. You wield what comes forth because it's always, whether you call it universe, source, or God, or Akash. I bring in anima mundi, meaning accept all, reject none. It's the same frequency that is blissed out state of a restored, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating, mindful human being. So the ones who do it, they will be back because they're blissed out. Every time there's a full moon, a new moon, or any kind of ascension energies. That's the 5D collective. And today what I can tell you is the dark sides of neuroplasticity does not look good on anyone. And when we spot them, they definitely think the world is asking more of them. And they like to exaggerate. That's how chaos and rigidity work. And when people don't know how to be epistemically curious, but instead they lack it, and so they're epistemically lazy, and their unhealed leadership are just like they are. Anybody know what we are? We are creatures of habit, which is why Dan Martell points out, be wary, be aware of mediocre people. They're dangerous. And I say, no, Dan, no. They're only dangerous for those who don't look themselves in the mirror with a steady self and know that they can do that which is human, to self-regulate, accountable, and then to also be aware and know we're all flawed and imperfect, but we unconditionally love because I've made mistakes too. And rigidity is not necessary. And chaos is not necessary because being myself, it won't make me better, your mannerisms. No, I will watch as you walk and as you talk. And as Jesus points out, you forgive. And as God points out, there's only one God. And anybody who's in flesh is not it. And so when you see someone saying they're divinity, it's not because they're trying to say they're it. They like to point out that divinity likes to experience high levels of suffering. And I say, bullshit. Obviously, you have no idea what that means. But hey, let me leave the spiritual bypassing community alone and the somatic bypassing. And now I'm trying to calm myself from getting irritated for no other reason except for those who are not like us. We get irritated. But I remind myself I'm not the only 3-year-old in town So we all make sense to ourselves, and that's where people who do know how to embody self-leadership, that's what they look for. They look for programs, for mindset practices, for that which involves the opportunity to grow yourself. Show yourself, no, grow yourself. I'm looking forward to seeing how amazing you will feel in the flow state. And someone who thinks adrenaline and dopamine, this low intensity, by the way, oh my gosh, they don't even know what they're missing because they haven't bothered trying to get out of their visceral. So the individuals who I feel, poor unfortunate souls, so sad but true, that one wanting to be pretty, that one wanting to get the girl in, do I help them? No, I don't, because that would be wrong, and that's where professional and personal responsibility come into the mix. So when someone says they want to lead or they want to call themselves a leader, I'm like, okay, do you know how to self-regulate? And do you know how to anchor consistently yourself in that which is called ventral energy when you're in the presence of subjective experiences of those who have perception, sensations, images, affects, meaning, yes, they have not self-agency. They have sensations, perspectives. Agency is depending on if their first year of life and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to explain all that, but the point that I'm trying to make is you enjoy embodied self-leadership skills, emotion intelligence skills, because you enjoy the act of self-regulating. That's the 5D collective. You also understand that you won't physically, unless you had unsteady self-image. I didn't. I've always been, I'm Maria. That's my 3-year-old. I still do it. I just know how to be disciplined because it's fun to feel good. I feel good. No. I knew that I would. And that to the external looks like rigidity. And I think nothing of those who are epistemically lazy. Do you know how we build a strong community? Like the world. I don't think of one place. The entire see, I think of all the children. Let's make the world a better place for you and for me and the entire human race, which is why I'm trying to learn how to remember what other people say about me doesn't matter. What I will do will matter. So I will not be ashamed of explaining why flexibility is what works. And that before I can make any kind of assumption, and I won't make assumptions, but any kind of analysis, I need to see your hands. And if I see a pattern the 3rd time, I'm going to wait for the other 2. By the 5th time, I know what I have in front of me, because that's those who lack the self-awareness and the accountability and the regulation to notice themselves and how they feel when they wake up in the morning and who they're around. So I'm not going to cry pity party for the ones who are vulnerable, manipulable, like the back of their hand, because when you do inform them of what true love is and of what the world is made of, embodied brains, they think that it's fake, that there has to be some enemy. And so push-pull is an insecure attachment, and those individuals live pseudo-aliveness. They continue to talk about good and bad in ways that are childish to those who have epistemic curiosity, emotional intelligence, and therefore the restorative embodiment collective. So when you are an adult, what do we know? We know that science is facts, and that spirituality is your embodied life if you are it, and that they don't contrast, they don't go against each other. Integrated brain. So the nervous system is our leadership, because that's exactly how we're functioning. And if you're on a high all the time, that's the flow state with blissed out. And when you do go through growth moments, you know what you're processing because you know your own life. And that's the fun part. And so whenever something's coming up, because you contain not only the sensations, the images, the affects, the behaviors, behaviors, affects, meanings, you laugh at yourself, and then you realize, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Also, God, universe, source, never leaves you. It's always nudging. Now, some people don't believe in that, which is why for the personal growth community, I say, look, there's dark matter, dark energy. There's a political scientist, man. I appreciate him. He's a colleague of mine because he's in school, PhD, researcher, has some great food for thought. And I saw his little bell curve. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I can see how it can be luck, but I can also see how it might not be luck. There's too many variables for me to come to just one conclusion. I can see the patterns from the past. I'm just so aware of now, epistemically curious, new stuff could be created tomorrow. So I'm not going to close myself off to anything. If I see a pattern from a human being, that's a different story. But I need to actively see that they completely disregard all of the maladaptive patterns of behavior. And do you know what happens with the inner critic, outer critic, drinking, drugging, fucking, or finding other ways to escape reality, which means that you don't have a window welcome? They end up not appreciating to be around those who say resilience is not a struggle. It's actually the opportunity of a lifetime. Why would I ever not use that, which is my nervous system that can grow stronger by the minute? And the word strong to me seems ridiculous because emotions don't make me feel weak, but I'm not fragile with the I'm going to reject you kind of deal. Integrity, as I said, what other people say about you doesn't matter. What you will have done will matter. And when I asked for homework on a Friday evening, I didn't feel ashamed of Maria. I thought, how many hours do you need to do nothing and get yourself in trouble? And aren't you planning to do something with your life? Like, this sounds really, I don't even know. How are you going to build a society? Who are you following? You follow what? The ones who don't want to go to school? Yes, well, the system's trying to hold you down. I see. Oh, you think it's easier to build richness for yourself than to actually go and make a difference in the economical system. Well, you know, some people have big plans to help the world be a better place. So I'm rooting for all the ones who are with cojones. This is a gesture. And that means they know that we as a species rocking and a rolling, and we don't need chaos or rigidity to grow, because the only ones who think that you need that level of push are the ones who think intensity means feelings. It doesn't. Right here, I got steadiness. Anytime someone's trying to poke the bear, I'm like, okay, what am I putting up with today? And so science spirituality tells us that your nervous system is your leadership. Although spirituality, I'm going to read you something in a minute. If you meet a spiritual bypasser, they're going to bring to you what I consider philosophy. I like to bring the human elements. And so give me a minute to grab what I want and give you the data. Remember, I'm pseudoscience woo lady, and I do fuck it up. I like to share those extras because there are people who just use words. And when you do just use words, the left brain, I'm not wanting it to have a story. I want it to know, like lovely Neil deGrasse points out, I'm a yellow. He doesn't say it to me. He explains what a red, what a yellow, and what a green are as for sources, like that you can rely on. Because I'm subjectively here as a professional who takes my own courses, I'm a yellow. Because I'm not within the field, the keep, very valid point. So when someone knows what smart means, they follow someone like Neil deGrasse. They listen to him, then they go and look at more academics in their research, and they don't think they're smarter than those who come together. They don't think they're dumber. This is what a steady self-image is. And so I'm just making sure we have those who are interested and curious in our topics and the journal prompts, who are doing life with responsibility to their selves and to spiritual if they want to talk to me about it, because there's no shortcuts. Integration of the brain. It's 6 to 8 weeks for new synapses to be connected or to be created. Okay, then it's another set of, was it 4 to 6 weeks? I forget, but this is from Dr. Daniel Siegel, and as he's explaining how integration works and the time frame, there's those who think there can be shortcuts. And while I do believe in miracles, I believe in angels. Yes, I do. I understand the explanation. And the explanation doesn't disprove that which is something that a spiritual one will believe in. It actively allows you to understand that which our ancestors were missing. So the only ones who are competing with stories are the ones who take data and think that it's not, true, whether you believe in it or not. So they might as well, in my Maria's subjective opinion, go hang out with the flat earthers. And they can go and hang out with those who stay away from doctors and everything, because they're staying stuck in a time that is no. And that's where rigidity and chaos go. So when someone has not the capacity to notice their affective realism, their cognitive dissonance, their structural dissociation, their unsteady self-image, their epistemic laziness, their active ignorance, as they claim to be leaders with confidence that they know everything, it's pretty clear that, yes, they are not self-aware with their authority or self-sovereignty. They are not able to influence their own regulation skills, but they're also not caring to notice what they're listening to, and then they're not really, you can't prove it. So the 0 to 8 year old non-metabolized trauma time, I've noticed that those who are in our 3D 4D brothers and sisters, when they get strike hit by lightning, when there's a message, they're not actually moving towards growth. It's more like Peter Pan, the Lost Boys, and Wendy. So, it is what it is. But do you know, when we look at, where's my sentence? Here it is. When you look at a child, right? How do children learn? They don't learn by what you preach. They actually learn thanks to how you model your presence, your integrity, your willingness to grow. So when you're rigid or chaotic, that didn't teach a child anything except for rigidity or chaos, which instills an unhealthy fear. And this is the part of why when someone is going to roll their eyes at the attachment trauma educators, I leave it alone, but I'm going to know that they are not accepting the information because they don't like it. Not because they're smart. No, they don't like it. And then they want to say that they know what love is using their visceral. And that's where drama queens and drama kings are at. So when they're reacting defensively, you don't even go there. Once you are in a steady self who is consistently, since as a teenager, moving along your journey with a very knowledge you got 24 hours to make a difference out there. And even one person does make a difference, because when you stay curious, open, and emotionally stable, even in discomfort, that's where not only you have the wisdom, which means you diffuse conflict with clarity, you set yourself up, as neuroscientists point out, and neurobiologists and mental health, for integration. And so again, those who get earned secure attachment and steady self, they join us once they're ready to do more. The spiritual language, or science and spiritual, consciousness, source, Akash, God, any of that, which is a word you would want to use. But at the end of the day, humanly speaking, it's called restorative embodiment. So it's emotional maturity, thanks to you consistently noticing, I have very strong emotions. I don't need to bring them in a room, and facts are very specific, and I know who I go to for them. And if I'm a researcher, then I'll be part of that group, and I won't be an asshole to my colleagues. I'll continue to learn how to remember that we are all in it for the right reasons. I don't know. Are they in it to save someone or fix someone? I'm going to say there's a savior complex. There's a martyr superior. No one's broken. Humans aren't made defective. They actively are made like any other being that is alive. And the attachment trauma educators explain what crying is and why we need our parents to come and pick us up. And a third attunement and repairing rupture, and why a 0-1 has a perception, so does a 3-7. Those who roll their eyes, once again, I've met them. You seem to disregard that you're wanting to understand, or just shake your head at perception and disregard the embodied brain is made differently. And when I can say psychopathy is no lack of imagination for any word, please don't use it. There's healing that takes place. You want to shake your head again and bring me ignorance. Yeah, that doesn't work with those who are leadership material, because again, the only manipulative individual is the same one who lacks the capacity to see that they have mustard. And those of us who do know how to forgive, it's because we also know what it is for an underdeveloped right mode of the brain and or whatever has gone down to be there. So you don't have to tend to validate an emotionally immature person or an unhealed leader. You just notice it, and then you know the dark sides of neuroplasticity are going to continue to do the job that it does. And a 0 to 8 year old non-metabolized trauma time, well, I mean, if you go watch any of the readers out there, you're going to laugh like I do, and then you're going to think, wow, okay, one thorn of experience is worth a whole wilderness of warning. Thanks, James Russell Lowell. But they can't pick up the warning because they think that their way of living, push-pull, chaos, and rigidity is what is needed to grow. In fact, they will say that that's going to teach someone a lesson. And I think, yeah, I'm a 3-year-old. You can't spank me. It's my body. And after I got spanked, I went to make my suitcase. And of course, I do understand I had a regulated nervous system as I was growing up, because obviously, had it been a dysregulated, I'm pretty sure probably, no, I don't know because I haven't lived it. But what my point is, the body that I was getting to interact with was regulating. And so as I went to go make my suitcase, I didn't lose myself. I stayed myself, and then I continued to argue with the same individual in the same regulated nervous system. And I still am not afraid. I'm not afraid anymore. Yeah, I'm not afraid. And as for strangers, that's a different story. So children and the world, they don't learn from what we preach. They don't learn from rigidity or chaos. No, actively, that's just a bunch of immature people who handle each other in ways that I'm not going to participate to. And so if you want to guide others, you guide yourself first. That means you have nervous system sovereignty. You regulate yourself, therefore, first. And that's how you also inspire human potential. And if you want to shape the future, you evolve your own mind as you own the brain, observe, witness, narrate, and it's an embodied brain. And you also own the heart, and you can keep it open, because when we cry, it's releasing trauma charges, but it's also about bonding. And when you get angry, it's about wanting to correcting. And when you get irritated also, and you allow yourself to understand why. And then you allow yourself to know that the fear, you want certainty. We all do. But we will together, in fact, as always, the real adults, the real leaders, fear-based doesn't do anything. Those leaders create followers. And as we will learn to respect the small-minded human being who will continue to contest things, roll their eyes, and with all of their capacity, try to resist that which is information with some story and more, I can't say I feel sorry for you, because stubbornness in the way of being completely blinded is explained to me by my left and my right. And when someone wants to use the word evil, I think there's a forensic criminologist scale. 1, 2, it's proven that no one is embodied by evil. 3, I'm a mystic and a spiritual one, and God made us perfect. 4, I have science that explains that perfection. 5, Jesus points out the kingdom of God is within us. Sadhguru points out the seed of enlightenment is within. I don't need actually anything more, but what I have noticed is good intentions are not enough. It takes the right action performed with the right consciousness to produce the necessary results. Thank you, Sadhguru. And as he also points out, integrity is not a set of values or ethics. It is coherence between how you are, how you think, and how you act. If a person does not know flexibility, adaptability, coherence, stable, and energized, they are not the human being who will be creating leaders. In fact, they will think that we let people get away with things, and or that we're too soft, and or that we're making up shit. And as they continue to wield their mouths, luckily for any grown-up out there, do you remember when you were a teenager? Awesome. So who listens to the people that are the home? Just letting you know. So I mean, it's a win-win, because the younger generation will be more knowledgeable about all of it. And what I love to see is when they are implementing that knowledge for their well-being. So the nervous system prioritizes predictability. Furthermore, it's amazing that they go to good therapists, because that's where you're going to get yourself securely attached. Once you have it, you say, I want to do it. Yes, I do. Not, I didn't do it. You don't do that. You're like, okay, I'm a creature of habit. So when you do know, nervous system regulation is the ability to consciously calm and stabilize the body's stress response. It's the capacity to move from, whether it's dorsal vagal or sympathetic, to your ventral vagal. And people who dysregulate will read this and think they know what self-regulation is. And I'm trying to present the reason why I give extra information, even though it may be incorrect sometimes, may be wrong words, because this creates the illusion that you know how to regulate. Well, I will clearly tell you, as people get older and they don't know a steady self and they don't know how to regulate, they continue to be manipulable by the professionals, by the way, who are not, that's spiritual, and are not whole. So when someone in the field, I'm a mentor, content creator, podcaster, so as a coach, you call me whatever words, as a Reiki master, it's for personal growth. Never once did I say, let me replace the therapist. Let me be better than, no, let me work with. But then when I'm realizing that some people will come out worse than before and they have the bad group, I'm like, okay, this is something that we need to work on as a community, because while I know they're not bad in the sense of bad, it's ineffective. They're actively now, it's like, oh shit, they sent them down a path that didn't have to be that way. But I digress. So nervous system regulation allows a person to move from fear to overwhelm into a more grounded and balanced state. So people who are pseudo alive and never learn to ground in aliveness, you will see them give you descriptions of grief that puts grief on a pedestal, like those who are spiritual bypassers who tell you consciousness wants to experience suffering, meaning all of the angles. Instead, what that is called is rumination in a dysregulated body, and like someone getting off of my panic attacks. That's disgusting to a person who knows inner peace, inner ease, and it's, wow, that is not fucking interesting, because I know that your body, your nervous system, to get out of dorsal vagal needs to activate sympathetic, and it's doing the thing that it started doing as an infant because you're dysregulated. Okay, so when someone will give you some type of explanation like that, and you got all these people with words in their mouth, and then you're like, okay, I can see some know, some no, but there's no need to also get all fired up about it. So someone saying, people don't know what the window of tolerance is, I think they don't know how to, and then claiming that there's not an entire keep of professionals who are helping, that's another bypasser, because you're claiming a role that is bigger than what is yours, and you're also dismissing and minimizing professionals who are badass. And you're creating a groupie community of people who will think that they can do it by themselves, like any other teenager, but they're not teenagers anymore. And I don't know if you understand the difference. So as a teenager, I learned not to look at the peers. I'm like, you know what? The grown-ups told me it's okay. We learned. We know better now. Never once have I looked back and thought, wow, I made a mistake. It's, wow, there's grown-ass human beings who are manipulable like the back of their hand, and they seem to think they know way more than I do. Yeah, don't worry. God's talking to me right now. He said, don't play the know-it-all. He taught me how not to do that when I was, 20, 19, something like that. So it's a good thing, because otherwise I would have wasted way too much time with people who I need not. Spiritual sovereignty, the practice of maintaining inner authority over one's thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, rather than being controlled by external influences or fear-based systems. So, maintaining inner authority, yeah, okay, one, you're not your own authority, that just sounds ridiculous, but you are your own inner wielder, and I just feel that some words are cold and distant, and it's like, authoritarian, wow, like, oh my gosh, my body just got all rigid, because words make a difference. So I'm like, no, I'm sovereign. I like that. Or you know what? I'm a flow. I'm a little flow. And so that's how the body likes to feel. It doesn't like to feel, yeah, oh my God, that when I get cold, I get sick. I'm like, I don't want to be stiff. But my point was, you're not the authority of your thoughts. You're the wielder of it. Like, wow, you must have a really hard time working with that sword, huh? And so the sword thing, the swords in tarot, it's thoughts, but also Sadhguru talked about, if it's like a knife, you can cut an apple awesomely, or you could cut it really bad. Inner critic, outer critic, that's not good. People who have family in the head, like Dr. Daniel Fox points out, that's not good. When you have I want to diet, we're doing the diet, that's my head. It's basically really fun. So I am sad, very sad for the ones who don't have the funny voice. I hope they get the funny voice. But yeah, I was like, okay, you will actually wield your thoughts because you wield your emotions. You know resilience because you know the capacity to do it the good way. And then you'll notice, because you're laughing more as you get older, not the opposite. Oh, and your beliefs. Well, that's where I laugh at the word, because it's like, I have beliefs, and then I really like to know of knowledge. And so I can believe in God because that's what I believe in, and nobody else has to. As for the ancestors who gave me stories, yes, I do believe in those stories. I'm a channeling downloader after all. But, and you give me data and say, so you don't believe in evil, it's like, okay, the word exists from the past, and no, because it actually is said to embody things. And but anyways, I'm trying to point out the humor in an explanation that isn't really giving you the tangible rather than being controlled. So yeah, external influences will always participate with you. And fear-based systems are at play due to the fact that we have fear-based leaders and people who think intensity is love. So as long as we have those who think manipulation and lies are becoming more problematic on earth, there's no more problematic. As long as you think the world is asking more of you, okay, obviously you're not yet present, attuning, resonating, or trusting yourself in the capacity to stay connected, open, aware, and loving with yourself, and then feeling felt. So your states of self, you feel them and you'll know them. If you have inner sovereignty, this inner authority, the self-leadership, you begin to be very aware of self and your capacity of how it can affect a room from yourself to others. I've noticed it because my amygdala was alerted to it. Or someone else telling you how they're being affected by you, or in a big group, okay? But by differentiating, there's no problemo. People who do this, I say, you're going to therapy, awesome. When you're done, come back around, we'll talk. But for now, what I'm speaking makes no sense to you because you don't yet have ownership of your sense of self. I do. Okay, so steady self means you are able to walk a walk and talk a talk. Those who join us, that's awesome. Those who don't, well, they don't have to. A truly intelligent mind is neither influenced by memory nor deluded by imagination. Thank you, Sadhguru. And as we will know, the nervous system predicts for us how to stay safe. So stability comes from repetition of us bringing it forth. Those who didn't have it and had intensity, their comfort zone is unhealthy. Now, if they want to bring in good habits, then they start to do it, and then as they become familiar with stability, they don't feel that it's boring. They feel, wow, this is amazing. I never knew I could have. That's a hypothetical, obviously. I should pause myself because I have no idea how it feels to move from the illusion that the visceral shit, and excuse me for my language, but that's how I'm gonna pose it, encourage comfort, support, and try to strengthen. So I'm going to let you all in on the ones who want to tell me they know who God is, but then they think one of our brothers or sisters is evil, apparently doesn't know who God is or the sphere. Because if they did, then they'd realize we're all made from the same cloth. And that in fact, with the human explanation of what a 0-8-year-old non-metabolized trauma time looks like, you're going to spot them all. The unhealed leaders, the arrogant, epistemically lazy, fake confident ones who continue to use this good and bad thing in ways that are ridiculous. Because it's either you're strong for real because you're flexible, adaptive, coherent, and stable, or you're not. That's how it works. That's how easy it is. And so when you're doing it easy, grounded, connected, you're present. Welcome aboard, 5D Collective. So the full moon, I didn't even realize it was here, but I did. I said the full moon's here. I said something about it because I kept looking at it. As those of you who get familiar with being in your expanded light body, after the rainbow body and stuff like that, you continue with your self, identity, and belonging to be spiritually sovereign, because the life of spirituality, by the way, the highest level, or just living it, is you living a life of meaning and connection beyond the solo self. So no matter what any of people out there do, they don't fuck with me and we, our biosphere. Those are me, Dr. Dan Siegel, Biosphere Terriel. But you are affected by the entire of our herd, meaning you'll perceive it. You just get familiar with differentiating year after year after year. I've been doing Ascension since like 2005, if not 7. That's where I became aware of more than just the basic foundation that I grew up with, God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, with my good Christian Catholic catechists. Obviously, as you all know, I am more likely than not rejected by a number of them. That's very sad. And as someone said, they're there now, Maria. You know God doesn't need science. I didn't think, oh, wow, I'm so sad that I'm not with people who don't know of the Christian Catholic Belgian priest who is a scientist and was. And thanks to him, we know about the Big Bang. Like, wow, you know, it's a sad story that some people don't know how to let go of a role and actually advance with the time and continue to contribute to society the way they were meant to. Instead, they eventually become, unfortunately, bad in some people's eyes as oppressors. And when I say I'm a good experience with my religious community, this is what people do. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry that you went through your stuff. I didn't have any of that stuff. I have. So the book, The Ways to God, I'm a co-author of it. Check out PayHip for bundles, journal prompts, mindset practices, Substack, subscribe. We have free, and we're going to also have our paid subscribers. And as this full moon came about, I'm sure you will have came into masculines and feminines. They do things differently. And that's for another episode. As an embodied feminine, I have my own embodied masculine, but I'm saying masculine energy. Those individuals who are dominant with that, their ascension and expansion happens in more tangible ways, so to speak. But in both equations, with structure and nurturing, that's why curious, open, accepting, and loving. The balance is when we do not acknowledge the wounds and the violations that people have experienced and carry, then we become one more person in the chain of people and in general over their lives that have not truly seen them. Thema Bryant Davis, PhD. So when you seek courage and curiosity, and that's just because we have some people out there and a lot going on. So courage in the sense of supporting our communities, building more of that which is strength and leading us to a stable future. While some think we always have to have roller coasters, those are the same people that have this. They don't know how to do ventral vagal. So they do on, off, on, off, on, off. Dysregulated people. That's why they can't imagine a world that is with peace. Also, as Stephen Porges points out, stability drives them crazy inside. No, he doesn't use those words. He says it's unsettling. Comfort zone, not health. Those who say we need our survivorship, yes, you will still be able to be badass with your nervous system. You actually do way better than if instead you're just a man playing Russian roulette who's a moron who continues to tell us all about his ruminating. It's like, wow, I just heard everything about your childhood and how you use your mind, and I'm thinking you have no idea what strategy looks like or is for real. But then again, you lack emotion intelligence because you have none of it up in the prefrontal. You just use, so using ancient history again, epistemic lazy people, they don't get updated with now. They think they know everything. That's where arrogance and the fake confidence just leads people down a hill of unfascinating stagnation. Life purpose and finding direction, protection, warmth in relationships, body, and environment. And so may Brigitte and her energy support you, as I would show you the entirety of this book, but there's a story behind it. So in the meantime, thanks for stopping by. I hope that you all have had a wonderful past couple days, and full moon has brought you some amazing expansion, and we'll be back with more. Have a good one.